which basically protects your investment as well. And again, they're available in both IP55 and IP66, 67. All right? So, one of the things, remember in EPMP, I talked about GPS synchronization. In fact, GPS synchronization was adopted from Canopy, from the system. We've been doing this GPS synchronization since the year 2000. We have a vast experience in it, and when we introduced EPMP, we thought, okay, why don't we get what we know best and put it on EPMP? So it exists here for a very long time, and it's pretty much the same concept. You synchronize all your APs on one sector, they all transmit at the same time and receive at the same time, avoiding self-interference and enabling your sectors to do frequency reuse for spectrum efficiency, right? All right. Now, what does GPS synchronization do here better than EPMP? If you remember, I said we need the 5 megahertz guard band. With the PMP 450 series, you need 0 guard band. So you can actually use adjacent channels and synchronize your APs, right? Makes it even more spectrum efficient. All right, so again, the advantages, first you have a scheduled TDD. Again, there is a scheduler that basically pulls a group of subscriber modules, and the downlink and then in the uplink they send their traffic. Latency and QoS, consistent and deterministic. You can have actually configure up to 2 priorities, I mean high priority channel and low priority channel, and you can map them to layer 2 and layer 3 quality of service. So it supports diff-serve and 802.1p, all right? GPS synchronization and throughput and system capacity, which makes it basically having the highest spectral efficiency in the market. So I want to do a deep dive on the 450M because this is the highest performance product, and I think it is interesting for you to know what it can support. So it's a leading edge technical innovation, more than 5x increase in capacity compared to typical 2x2 MIMO radios. I want you to think about the system this way. Imagine that you have literally 7 radios under the same enclosure. Each of them is 2x2 MIMO. That will give you basically, assuming that you don't have a frequency issue, that should give you 7 times the capacity, right? So we do it actually with a very innovative antenna technique, right? Where we have 7 antenna arrays in this enclosure. And what this enables the product to do is communicate, as I said, using multi-user MIMO with 7 subscriber modules simultaneously, adding about 5 to 7 times of the throughput that you get with existing 2x2 MIMO products, right? Supreme spectrum efficiency, because of that multi-user MIMO and beamforming, we can achieve over 500 megabit per second on a 20 megahertz channel size, and over 1 gigabit per second over 40 megahertz. It's not a joke, all right? This does exist, and we have live tests where we did this, and we were able to aggregate 1.26 gigabit per second on 7 subscriber modules at the same time, okay? The beauty of this system, and I know maybe it might be irrelevant to many of you, if you have existing 450 subscriber modules, you don't have to change them. All you need to do is just change the AP. So you remove the sector, you put the new 450M sector, and you just increase your capacity, all right? Enhanced link stability, uplink interference mitigation due to beamforming, and the RX sensitivity improvements. I mean, to any system, it offers more than 12 dB of receiver sensitivity improvement, and that's a lot in the world of dB. Processing capability, it has a very high PPS capability. What's said here is 100 PPS, but now we are able to do 300K of packet processing. All right. So again, truly massive 14 by 14 MIMO. It's an integrated radio with 90 degrees sector antenna. Integration with radio eliminates points of failure, dramatically lowers product cost, and reduces installation cost and installation time. And this product, as I said, mainly is when you have a high density of customers that you're trying to use. This is for customers who are looking for, like, where you have to basically put some aggressive SLAs and you need a system that can actually commit to that, this is where you actually go with the 1250. Okay. Again, it uses multiple antenna MIMO techniques. As I said, you have 7 antennas. Each of those antenna arrays has 2 polarizations. They're not vertical and horizontal because you can't have that on 7 antennas that are too close to each other. But they are on 2 different polarizations and they do not interfere with each other. All right? So MU-MIMO is basically designed to increase the capacity between 2 wireless nodes. Multi-user MIMO uses the antenna array to communicate with multiple wireless nodes at the same time, as if you're having multiple point-to-point nodes. So what is spatial multiplexing? It's the process of using multiple radio beams to communicate to multiple subscribers. And as I explained before, what happens here in the access point is it basically divides the subscriber modules into different groups. And it can create up to 7 groups. And that is based on the separation between those subscriber modules. The minimum separation between 2 beams in order for you to be able to form separate beams is about 6.5 degrees, which is not a lot, right? So with that, you will be able to form more groups. And the interesting thing about this product is the more CPEs you actually put under it, the better your throughput gets from the sector, because it aggregates, it is able to form more beams, hence aggregate more throughput, right? The more your CPEs are scattered around the sector evenly, the more you can basically form more groups, okay, and create more beams that can reach up to 7 beams, okay? So, okay, so that's pretty much the same here. So in conventional systems, a static sector antenna provides a wide beam, typically covering 90 to 120. Beamforming uses an antenna array to dynamically create a narrow beam aimed to a subscriber of interest. So it's not just a sector, it's basically narrow beams to multiple CPEs. And so this is on the left side here, this is basically the sector mode, where you see a sector communicating to multiple CPEs. And on the right here is the beamforming mode, where the sector forms separate beams to separate CPEs. All right, so the MU-MIMO operation, basically what happens is the access point identifies which subscribers are connected. And there is basically a sounding mechanism after that where it gets the channel state and the CPE state and basically decides if it can connect to it with a narrow beam or not. And then the antenna array forms a narrow beam covering the subscriber of interest and uses it to transmit or receive data. And this process doesn't happen to one SM at a time. It happens to multiple of them, basically. All right? So that's about Medusa. Now let's look at the sub-6 gigahertz point-to-point portfolio. This is basically one point to another, right? Pretty simple. So we have also a wide portfolio, and you can see here that we again have 450 and 450i, which is the same series as the point-to-multipoint. It's pretty much the same product, but it has a point-to-point algorithm in it, enabling to actually do more throughput than in point-to-multipoint. So we have a PTP450 and a PTP450i. And then we have the PTP550, which we will talk about in greater detail. But this is a product where you can achieve about 1.4 gigabit per second of headline rate. And I'll show you exactly how you'll do that later. And then our carrier-grade high-performance point-to-point system, which is the PTP670. If any of you in this room heard about orthogon systems, that's maybe back in 2004. So, okay, so I can see a few hands there. This is actually based on that. This is based on the OS Spectra platform, if some of you remember that. Okay, this is, I can say, maybe the highest spectrum efficient point-to-point radio in the market today, with 10 bits per second per hertz of spectral efficiency. And it delivers up to 450 megabit per second on a 45 megahertz channel size, with a very low latency. And what makes it different is that it's interference mitigation techniques. So It supports what we call dynamic spectrum optimization. And this is basically the ability for the radio to change the channel based on interference levels without dropping your link on the fly. Plus, which is the best second feature, it supports asymmetric DSO, where both radios in the link can actually listen on different channels. It's more of a semi-FDD mode, which we will explain later, okay? All right, so speaking of PTP670, which is the high performance product, it's available in two models, either integrated or connectorized. So the integrated comes with a built-in 23 dBi antenna, and the connectorized comes with two antenna connectors, vertical and horizontal, in case you want to use higher gain antennas to achieve better link budgets or longer distances. So it's a wideband radio, covers between 4.9 gigahertz to 6.05 gigahertz, supports very wide range of channels, starting for 5 megahertz, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, and 45 megahertz channels. Best in class spectral efficiency, as we mentioned before. It's a 2x2 MIMO. The physical interfaces are 1 gigabit main port and 1 gigabit Ethernet auxiliary port that can be used as a PoE out. So you can actually utilize this port to power PoE-enabled devices such as IP cameras or maybe an outdoor Wi-Fi access point. And it has one SFP port in case you want to use fiber to carry data. Plus, in case you have, like, you're in a situation where you want to carry legacy traffic such as E1T1, we have a network indoor unit that can be used. Basically, you can connect to it up to 8 E1s and you can carry them over the link. We support up to 13 modulation schemes, starting with BPSK up to 256 quant. Aggregate capacity and frame support, so it's up to 450 megabit per second, processing power of 900 PPS, and support of jumbo frame up to 9600 bytes. Transmit power is the highest in the industry with 27 dBm of transmit power, and the latency is 1 to 3 milliseconds. So what makes this product different? I mean, after all what I said, you can also do high capacity multi-points. So in case you're in a situation, for example, you bought a point-to-point link and you still want to utilize the same system to connect another maybe 4 sites, right? So all you need to do, you buy an additional radio with a sector antenna and you buy a license that you apply to this radio, and it will be able to communicate with up to 8 remote radios. So again, your investment is protected in case you had to expand your network. Again, it's a point-to-few point. So this is not a scalable solution, but it is a very high performance solution in the sense that it delivers more than others when it comes to shared throughput. Okay. All right, and this is just a chart to show you the channel size against capacity, and it's pretty important. This explains basically the spectral efficiency feature that we have on the radios, right? In any conventional radio that you have, for example, an ODM 2x2 MIMO, okay, it is very common that on 20 megahertz you'll get to around 90, 100 megabit per second. And our spectral efficiency is pretty much double that, where on a 10 or 20 megahertz channel, as you can see here, you can actually achieve up to 200 megabit per second. So what I'm trying to say here is you can utilize very narrow channels and still push a very high capacity. You only need 5 megahertz here to push 50 megabit per second, okay? So on high capacity multi-point, one of the cases that you can use them now, let's say you have 4 remote sites. In the case of point-to-point, you'll have to basically, number one, choose a different channel for each link, right? Which basically make you consume a very big chunk of the spectrum. That's if you find it. With high capacity multi-points, you'll just do 45 megahertz and it's only one master unit with one sector, and you can communicate with up to 4 or even 8 nodes, dividing the capacity between them. All right. And this is just an example of one of the scenarios where you can actually deploy high capacity multipoint in case you want to extend to very nearby areas or areas that require less throughput. So the benefits of 670 mainly is, it has definitely one of the fastest processors when it comes to a radio. HCMP compatible, so it supports high capacity multipoint up to 8 remote nodes. Over-the-air rekeying, which is pretty important. So this is basically a feature where you buy it's a license that you apply on the radio, and basically it's an AES license. And what happens is it changes the key without you having to do it manually. So the key changes over the air automatically, and it's regenerated between the master and the remote sides. Simplified licensing structure, and it's backward compatible with the older series of the same category. And now PTP 550. So where does PTP 550 fall? I mean, these are a lot of point-to-point products, right? So 550 is basically when you have requirements where you're looking for very high headline rate, right? 1 gigabit per second, regardless of the spectrum availability. But we have techniques to basically achieve that, right? So when you look at the PTP 550, number one, it's a wideband radio, so it covers the whole 5 gigahertz spectrum. Available today in 20, 40, and 80 megahertz channel sizes. So it doesn't have the same flexibility as the PTP 670. Spectral efficiency is 8.75 bit per second per hertz. The interfaces are pretty much 1 gigabit Ethernet for data and power, for power over Ethernet, and 1 SFP port in case you want to connect it to fiber. And the modulation is adaptive, starting from QPSK to 256 QAM, and it has an aggregate capacity of around 1.4 gigabit per second. Transmit power is up to 27 dBm, and it has an integrated 23 dBi antenna. Now, what makes this product interesting is a feature called channel bonding, right? So, all of our products support adaptive modulation. But what I want to talk about here is when you look at the channel bonding here. Yeah, so you can look at the PTP 550 as a radio that has pretty much 3 radios inside. Okay, 2 of them are used for transmission, and the third is used as a spectrum analyzer. Okay, now what you can do here is, let's say, in today's spectrum, 5 gigahertz, you'll be lucky to find a 20 megahertz and a 40 megahertz somewhere. And sometimes you wish that you have a radio that can actually utilize non-contiguous channels in a spectrum, because you don't always have those 80 megahertz chunks available, after each other. So what this system allows you to do is basically bond non-contiguous channels, so you can have a 20 megahertz somewhere in the 5.4 and a 40 megahertz in 5.8, and basically aggregate the throughput on both. And you have here different channel configurations, so you can see you can have 20 by 20, and this is mainly in a bad network where you have a lot of interference. You can have one channel at 20 megahertz, another at 40 megahertz, when you have only one clean channel, so you put the wide one on 40 megahertz. And you can put 80-20 or 40-40. So you can pretty much configure the channel widths to your leisure, basically where you find them. All right? Okay. And again, so this is an example, so you can actually, for example, put the 20 megahertz as your reliable channel, the channel that basically doesn't have a lot of interference, and you can guarantee its availability. And the more aggressive one can be actually put on 40 megahertz. Does that make sense? All right. So these are some of the use cases. So basically, you can, if in case you are in an area where you use DFS, so you can put one of the channels as a DFS channel, and you can utilize the second channel where you don't have DFS. So whenever DFS triggers, you know, you have this channel there and, okay? And finally, the link planner. So the link planner, I'm gonna actually go through a session on the link planner later today after seeing Maestro. And this is basically our planning tool. It's an in-house developed planning tool, and you can plan all all outdoor networks using Cambium Networks products using this tool. And we're going to go through it later today. Okay. Again, for the management, we have a cloud-based centralized management system, CN Maestro. We spoke about this before. And again, the management system is either cloud-based or on-premise, or basically, so for the management system, it's actually either on the cloud or on the premise. For the on the premise, you can download it from our website and you can install it on a VMware and have your own local management system. All right. Again, now for the planning, you have Link Planner. We spoke about this. CN Archer is a pretty impressive tool. This is actually an app that you download from the Play Store or iOS. And basically, it helps you align your CPE to the sector. So once you link to it, it will show you what are the sectors that the CPE sees and which one is the best sector. You can basically do the basic configuration, register the CPE to the sector, and onboard it on CN Maestro as well. Make sense? Yeah? All right. So just to summarize, Cambium Networks Road fabric basically is to connect people, places, and things. Products are purpose-built. We can connect you from 2 meters to 245 kilometers. Narrow band to wide band, so from kilobit per second to gigabit per second. Indoor and outdoor, point-to-point, to multi-point and Wi-Fi, licensed as well as unlicensed, scalable, and all managed by a single pane of glass. Okay? And I believe that's it with the PowerPoint. So now, if you don't mind, I will start with the demonstration. Okay? Do you have any questions? Okay. All right. Okay, guys, so this is going to be a quick demonstration of how CN Maestro look like, right? So we kept on telling you CN Maestro, CN Maestro, CN Maestro, single pane of glass, manages everything. You know, I think it's about time for us to see what this thing does, right? Yeah? So, again, CN Maestro is a cloud-based management system, which is also available on the premise, so you can have it on your own premises. So whatever you see here now, it can be actually hosted on a local server of yours. All right? The same exact interface. So in a management system, what do you do, basically? Number one, you onboard devices, right? You need to have a mean to onboard devices into your management system. You need to be able to monitor them, view the alarms, configure them to a certain extent, right? Perform software updates, and maybe see them on a physical map, maybe upload a floor plan to see your Wi-Fi access points and where they are. Maybe have captive portal functionality, where you can actually create a captive portal and guest access. So we're going to take a look at all of this quickly today, right? So onboarding devices is very simple, okay? And you have two methods to onboard devices on CN Maestro. So assuming you're using the cloud-based one, all you need to do, once you create your own CN Maestro account with Cambium Networks, you will put the Cambium ID and the onboarding key on your device. Once it's connected to the internet, you will get a message like this, that there is a device waiting onboarding. And you will click approve or delete. If you know it's your device, you approve it. Once it connects, it will synchronize whatever configuration you have put for it. Okay? The second way, which is maybe the easier way to some of you, is you can actually claim devices by just putting the serial number of the device in this box. You can either put one serial number or you can put multiple serial numbers. You put all those serial numbers, especially service providers who are actually providing those access points to their customers. You can just proactively put all of these serial numbers, click claim devices. Once these devices come online, you will get a message that they are waiting on the queue. And then you will start approving them and onboarding them on your management system. So once this happens, what are you able to do? Right? So let's go back home. Let's go to monitor, for example. So this is basically the dashboard, okay? And what does the dashboard show you? As you can see here, you can see the total number of devices, how many of them are offline or when did they go offline, how many are onboarding. If you remember, we saw that there's one device waiting to be onboarded on the management system. So you can see that as well. The devices by type, okay? You can see here, so category of devices, EPMP, point to multipoint, Wi-Fi, okay? The number of those devices on your network. The alarms, a quick view of the alarms, how many critical, major, or minor alarms that you have. All right, and you can see the connection health of your devices in the last 24 hours. Okay, how many devices are basically connected. So if you can see here, this is the free version. Any of you can actually create an account and you will get a support to up to 10,000 nodes to manage and monitor on this management system. All right. And then you have the physical map where you can actually see your network. So once you enter the GPS coordinates of the equipment that you're trying to manage, you will be able to see it actually in a physical map. And here you can see the top alarms per products as well. This is something that we showed. Now, on the left pane here, you can see basically the networks that you have as a network manager. So for example, if I take one of the core equipment here, and we look at this Giga Tower, okay? So again, you can see this tower on a physical map, and if you look at this AP, you can see all the subscriber modules that are connected to it, right? So you look at the AP, you can see here the AP and all the SMs on the physical map that are connected to it, right? And it shows you here the device health and where does it fall in the tree of devices, right? So under a tower status, you have an access point and then you have the subscriber modules. 2 of those subscribers are down. So it gives you a complete state of how your network looks like and how the health of your network is looking like, right? Plus you get to see, things such as the IP address, the MAC address, and so on. And what makes it pretty is that it doesn't look like a typical management system that you guys are used to, where you actually start opening folders and get lost in the navigation of it. It looks more like a GUI, which is easier to look at, and to use. And again, like from the physical map, you can click and you can see this is linked to what, right? Okay. You can also carry different configurations. So you can also configure the devices from CN Maestro. You can even look at the details and see what is the active software, and the history of software updates, and so on. And you can also carry software update jobs to a complete network or to a device from the management system. All right, so this is when it comes to point-to-multipoint, to the core products, right? Now, we have a different view for Wi-Fi. So if you go to the Wi-Fi groups here, we also have some Wi-Fi networks. So if I look at this, for example, so this is one of the Wi-Fi networks that is actually part of this CN Maestro account. And again, you can see with the dashboard, you can see the AP types, the number of clients that were connected on each radio, and the throughput that passed through these access points, also per radio, right? You can see the top APs, the top alarms that you have, and again, the top clients with their MAC addresses as well. All right. Now, the most thing I want to show you here is the guest portal access, which is pretty interesting. Okay, so one of the things that CN Maestro does is different guest access methods. Right? So basically what you do here is you add a portal. So you can add different portal accesses, depends on how many customers you have, right? Or maybe if you are the customer, you can do it yourself. Now, if we look at that, so you can put the basic details of this captive portal, and when you go to access control here, you have 3 access control methods, right? Free, paid, and vouchers. All right? So with the free, just to show you, you can basically define the client, the session duration, the renewal frequency, and this can be from minutes to days. All right, for both. You can do the client rate limit in the downlink and in the uplink. You can actually select the quota type, whether you want it to be directional or aggregate. So is it the total quota uplink plus downlink, or is it basically an aggregate one? So basically, if the client exceeds a particular uplink quota, his connection in the uplink will be limited, right? And also, you have social login. So basically, you can configure Google, Facebook, Office 365, and you can choose to bypass the captive portal. All right? One more thing is SMS authentication. So basically, if you're depending on what service provider you're using, you can enable SMS authentication. You all know what SMS authentication is, right? So today we support these 3 providers, but if there is a 4th provider that you guys would like, or any of you would like to work with, we can investigate that and possibly support it within our system. Okay? All right, so this is the free access. Now, sorry, if you look at the paid, so I'm not sure if the paid makes any relevance here, but we also have a paid feature where you can actually connect to a payment, PayPal payment gateway, iPay, or what have you, and have a paid service. And most of all is the voucher access. So the voucher access enables you to create internet vouchers with specific session duration, and other parameters that I'm going to show you right now to enable the clients to connect to the internet. So if we enable this, just to show you exactly what we can do. So you can add the plan, number 1, and within this plan, you can put a name for this plan, session duration, voucher expiry, and again, this is from minutes to days. You can do client rate limit in the downlink and in the uplink. You can do the quota type, whether it's directional or aggregate or total. And then you can put also the device limit. So using this voucher, how many devices can connect to the internet? 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, up to you, right? And you can also design the voucher card, if you see here. So you can change the colors, change even the wording in the title, in the message, and so on. Okay, once you create that, I'm not going to create it, unfortunately, because this is a demo account. So I don't want to wreck it for others. But once you create that, it'll show here, and then you will be able either to export it into an Excel, or you can even create a PDF, or you can create a printable card where you can give it to your clients with a passcode and so on. Okay? So this is mainly the pinpoints that I wanted to show you about CN Maestro. Okay? Now, let me jump quickly into Link Planner. Okay? So Link Planner is it's our link planning software, right? You can plan point-to-point, point-to-multipoint, and the narrowband CN reach stuff. Anything outdoor, except for Wi-Fi, can be designed and planned using this tool. Yes, okay. All right, so guys, let me open a project and show you exactly how it looks like and what output you can get from it, okay? So this is a requirement I worked on recently, and it's in Iraq, okay? And so what you can see is a network view. This is already a done plan, so I just want to show you the tool, not how to use it, okay? This is a done plan. It's basically a backhaul using licensed microwave, because we have a licensed microwave solution. And just to show you one of the links here, okay, so if you can see here, you can basically see how the link looks like with the terrain information, the worst earth curvature. You can adjust the heights of each site based on the line of sight availability. And see, the beauty of it is, because it supports all of our products, so from a drop-down menu, you can actually change the product, select the frequency. For example, I'm going to change this to 5.8, just as an example. Okay? And I'm going to choose 670 as the point-to-point product. You can also change the country code to control the transmit power regulations. You can play around with the channel size. So I'm going to reduce that to 20 megahertz. You can choose if you want it to be symmetric or adaptive from an uplink downlink perspective. You can choose the maximum and minimum modulation schemes. All right. All right. And again here, like for example, if you see on Link Planner, something doesn't meet the specifications here. All right. So what you can do in order to meet the specifications is you increase the antenna size. So you have a selection of antennas where you can actually increase the antenna size on those radios using external antennas and adjust their heights, as you can see here. And it will give you basically the lowest mode availability in percent. This is the annual actual availability and the aggregate IP throughput available for this. And here you actually get to see it in a performance chart. So you can see the availability versus the throughput here in both symmetric as well as adaptive uplink downlink ratios. Okay? And finally, you can see the bill of material of what products will be required in order to fulfill this link. Yeah, that's pretty much it on Link Planner. I can spend a day explaining this. It's a training course by itself, but for now, just to let you know that this planning tool can do pretty much everything. It takes into consideration weather and environmental conditions, earth curvature, everything that you need. It's pretty much conservative, by the way. So my personal experience is when I plan links, they usually perform pretty much the same, if not better. As long as you plan it right, for sure. Okay? So, yeah, that's it. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. So. All right. That's easier. Okay. All right. No problem.
Okay. Before we let Ahmed go, he's covered a great deal of material this afternoon, and thank you for being patient and attentive. But I want to make sure that if there are any questions in the audience, you don't be shy about asking a few questions, because if one of you has a question, I imagine that question is shared by anyone. So before we say thank you and goodbye to Ahmed, are there any other questions from the audience on all of the material that he's covered at this point? We're good? Oh, we have a question over here. Yeah.
I just want to ask the question about the link planner. Is it just the software just plans for it, or it will do the configuration also? In this, we do the configuration of the equipment of the radio.
This is mainly a planning tool.
It is a planning tool.
Yes.
So which software you use for the software integration or
for the configuration?
Configuration.
So usually our equipment are configured through GUI, graphical user interface, or through CN Maestro, which is the management system.
That is totally IP based. So
yes, exactly.
Okay. So
exactly.
on site it can be done, or is it centralized?
You can do it on site, or you can do it. It really depends on which type of equipment. Some of the equipment can be actually zero touch. It can be onboarded on CN Maestro without doing anything. And some of the products you actually need to go and configure them locally, or preferably configure them before you go to site and make sure they're working.
Okay. It's okay.
Thank you. We have a question over here.
My question as well along with the link planner. Okay. So can we calculate the height required to clear the LOS through this link planner?
So you can increase the antenna height?
Yes. Can we calculate the height required for the antennas?
For the antennas?
Yeah.
Calculate or?
Yes, calculate. How much height required to clear the LOS with respect to actual train?
That's good. That's good stuff.
Is this feature available or not?
So you saw in Link Planner, once you create your link, it will return to you the terrain information.
Yes. I would require train information.
Exactly. So
can I sync with the actual train information with this link planner?
Can you, sorry?
Can I sync this link planner with the actual train information?
Sync this link planner?
Yeah.
Because
yes.
No,
you
can't. No, we're already using SRTM.
I want to calculate the required height to clear the LOS for the antenna, right? For that, I would need the actual terrain in the link.
And this is the actual terrain?
Yeah.
This, we are using SRTM.
Okay.
We are, so basically, and this is actually where I wanted, unfortunately I didn't have enough time to explain this. Link Planner, in order for it to return path profile information, it needs to be connected to the internet. Okay? Why is that? Because once you create the GPS coordinates and create the link, we actually gather all the terrain information from our servers, which is based on SRTM. Okay? Once this is gathered, it will display on Link Planner, and whatever heights you see on that link is actually from ground level, not from sea level. And from ground level, you can adjust those heights of the antenna. And so you can actually see the line of sight, and based on that, you can increase or decrease the height of the antenna the way you want. Does that answer the question? Okay.
We have one last question over here, and then we're going to our awards. Our gentleman from the hotspot.
Do we have an option to add custom fields in guest captive portal?
I knew this was coming. Using third-party tools, yes.
Okay.
But natively, not today. Not today, mark my words, okay? We have a very rich roadmap, and we're adding a lot of features to it.
And we can embed our Twilio account with this, right?
Sorry?
For SMS authentication?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, so we're going to move to some awards, and then we'll have a little bit more time for question and answer just afterwards. I just wanted to make one point to emphasize. Link Planner is a very powerful tool. We have thousands and thousands of links planned every month on Link Planner, okay, and it's available to all of you. We don't charge for this service. It has the core of Cambium RF capability designed into it. So if you go onto our website and you look for Link Planner, you will find it. And anyone in this room can use it to plan Cambium or non-Cambium links, but obviously people come over to Cambium once they see the power of that tool. That's why we open it up to to the entire community. So I encourage you to all go into the website and find Link Planner. What I'm going to do is ask if we can take a pause on questions, because I think I went a little bit out of order. We're going to come back and have more Q&A, and we're going to take a break and have some recognition, and then we'll come back and take some more questions from the audience. So, Shakil.
Thank you very much, Martin, and thank you, Dawood. I think Dawood needs some rest. He speaks a lot, and but really it was very informative, and this was very good. Okay, so we will continue the Q&A session, but right now I would like to thank Mr. Dr. Zahir from Usman Institute of Technology, who took the time for us and came here. And the best part of UIT is that we are going to launch the EPMP course within the educational pattern of UIT. And definitely, because training is very important, and there is a telecom engineering over there. So I'm again thanking him for the support for this. And I'm also the UIT engineer, so I would like to support all the time. So I would like to call Mr. Martin, Mr. Amin, Mr. Yasser, Mr. Dawood to come up on the stage, and we can start some award. And also Mr. Akhil. Yeah.
Absolutely, madam. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I can't talk without this.
Switch it off. Box yeah. So I would like to call Mr. Dr. Zahir, Director UIT. So please, I need the clap for him. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you again. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. I would also like to call the UIT team if they come on the stage, and there are some gift for them. So please come here and hampers. Yeah, please have a clapping for them. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming. Okay, Mr. Sajjad is from Hamdard University. Okay, thank you for coming. And now I would like to call some of our potential customer, and I really thank them to come here, because all of you, we can understand you are quite busy people, but trust me, this is all for you. This is the solution of your problems. So right now I would like to call Wateen people to take the award from here. Please clap for him. Okay, so now I would like to call Mr. Nasir from Ebon and his team. Okay. Okay, now I would like to call CyberNet team to come and collect the. So is there any? Yeah. So please clap. The whole team should come. Huh? Give time. Please be note that the session has not ended. We will continue it again for a short time. Okay. Now I would like to call the concept teams. Please come up on the stage and. Yeah, thanks. Okay, now I would like to call a very big company and very having big infrastructure, the Multinet team. So please come up on the stage and take care. ये तस्वीर जो लेना कैमरे की तरफ I think the people are tired now. That's good. Now I would like to call NetSet team. Yes, we can understand this is not an easy to take such a long session, but okay, so now I would like to call SuperNet team. So please come here and Okay, now I would like to call QB. So please come on the stage and take their award. Okay, so now I would like to call DP World, Mr. Nadeem. Okay. This is the biggest container port terminal from European side import. So now I would like to call Mr. Junaid and Mr. Uzair from Fauji Foundation. This is also a very big port company.